We'll get going here then. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We will start with questions for Avalanche Captain Gabriel Landeskog, and then General Manager Chris MacFarland will join us after that. We'll take questions for Gabe in English first, followed by a couple in Swedish. And just a reminder, you're going to have to use that hand raising feature to indicate you have a question, and I'll call on you. And then also please just remember that once you're called on, you're also going to have to unmute yourself. We'll get started here. We'll start with Bennett Durando, Denver Post.
Hey, Gabe, how's it going? I guess for starters, could you sort of take us through the process since you talked in April about how you reached the decision to undergo this transplant tomorrow, and basically what sort of medical advice you've gotten about it, and sort of the nature of the injury at this point?
Yeah, I mean, like I said back in April, at that point we come to the conclusion that coming back and playing in the playoffs wasn't an option and wasn't going to be something we could do. We continued exploring and done more studying in the last month than I have since high school. So extensive research on my end and with the help of our medical staff on the team. And I've talked to numerous doctors and medical experts and getting opinions, learning more about what the different procedures would be. And this was one that this is the one that we feel like is the best way forward and the best solution for me to come back and play hockey again. So it's been a process, but at the same time, it's been I feel confident in the decision, and I'm excited to get going and excited to have the first step out of the way tomorrow morning.
Peter Baugh, The Athletic.
Hey, Gabe. I'm curious, what was did they give you a sense of timetable with the surgery of like how long the rehab process will take? And then will you do that in Denver, or do you expect kind of being in different places?
Yeah, it's a little too early to tell, to be honest with you, on the timetable. Obviously, we're expected and to miss the regular season next year, and that is just something that I've come to terms with and accepted, and but it's, for me, it's about taking it one step at a time, and now I'm not so focused on that. I'm focused on getting through with the surgery tomorrow morning, and then really taking it one day at a time, making sure that we do things right, and making sure that everything is optimized throughout the rehab process so that I can't come back and play. And I'm confident. Everybody I've talked to and the medical experts that I've consulted with have shared that faith with me as well. So feel good about it. The rehab process will be mostly out of Denver. I put together a team that I feel very confident with, and I'm looking forward to get going. And I'm excited.
Kyle Fredrickson, The Gazette.
Hey, Gabe, through this process of figuring out what's next and just knowing how challenging this road has been for you, at any point did you consider retirement? And just could you just bring us through what your desire is to play and what really motivates you to come back right now?
I have not contemplated retirement at all, to be honest with you. It's just been a matter of finding the best path forward for me, and figuring out identifying the problem and then figure out a solution. Really, that's how you approach everything in life, I think, and this is no different. Until I've exhausted every option, then I'm just going to keep pushing forward. So I'm excited about it. Like I said, I'm confident about it. Is it going to be a long road? Yeah. But motivating factors are plenty. Obviously, the last time I was on the ice in a game time situation, it was Game 6 and down in Tampa Bay, and we were the winners of the last game of the season. So that's enough motivation in and of it itself. And I think watching our team this year has been very motivating. And there's been so many times where I just wish I could tie up the skates and go out there and play with them. But I know that time will come. I just have to do what's right for my health and really ultimately do what I can so I'm able to go out there and play with the guys, and continue to chasing more Stanley Cups. And I just feel like we as a team have something really exciting going, and we have a really, excited fan base for all the right reasons. And that's why I feel like I think this is the right opportunity for me to make sure that I'm healthy and I can come back and play. So I'm very excited about it.
Pat Graham, Associated Press.
Hey, Gabe, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Kind of a two-parter here. Have you got any sort of like success rate from the doctors on how often this is successful? And is this kind of like a radical surgery, like maybe like a Jack Eichel type back surgery type surgery?
Well, success rate I think is above 85%. But the problem, I shouldn't say the problem, but it's an uncommon. I guess it's an uncommon procedure for elite athletes. It's, and the hockey players even more so, but basketball players have done them. And I've actually spoken to Lonzo Ball that just had the same procedure done, a couple of months ago, probably at this point. So, been able to talk a little bit with him, and, he's had a similar last 14 months that I have, with a couple minor procedures and things like that. So I'm confident. It's an injury that's hard to rehab. It's an injury that's hard to sort of, once the injury is done and there's enough damage in there, it's sort of hard to patch the holes without going through this procedure at this time with the symptoms that I have and with what I'm experiencing. So I'm confident with it. Sorry, Pat, but I think I forgot the second part of your question.
Just is it radical? Is it kind of like a Jack Eichel type surgery? Back surgery? Or is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a subjective opinion. I don't think so. I don't see it that way. I've done a lot of research on it. I've read numerous studies on it, the rehab on it. In my mind, it's not a radical surgery. So I would say no.
Jesse Montano, DNVR.
Hey, Gabe. Well, I was going to ask what your confidence level was of you coming back, but you've kind of answered that here over the last couple of questions that you are feeling good. I guess just how hard has this been for you, to make this decision and after missing last season to come to the conclusion that you're going to sit out next year? Just how hard has this whole process been, the decision making for you?
Yeah, I think, it goes up and down, and there are times where it's harder than others. But I think once, the press conference for me was a big weight off my shoulders, and it allowed me to, to sort of dive into the research on this and talk to experts and doctors and get opinions. It's all about just making sure that you're putting yourself in a frame of mind that allows you to focus on something. And for me, it hasn't been focusing on missing out on the season or missing next season. It's going to be about, my rehab and my journey and getting better at making those small incremental gains in the training room, but also in the weight room when that comes time. And eventually I'll get on the ice, and then it's about making those small steps forward. And you really have to break it down. If I'm, coming out of surgery tomorrow, thinking about returning on the ice, whenever that will be, that's a big gap to fill in there. So you have to really break it down incrementally and take it one step at a time. I've said it for years, but that's the only way to do it. And I think for me, the hard times have been made a lot easier by the people I've surrounded myself and my family and my friends and my teammates and, the staff in the organization, and the support overall that I've received over the last year or, last 10 months or whatever it's been, and continue to get has been overwhelming at times. And, but something that, means a lot to me and has really helped me out throughout this whole process. And being around the team in the last 2 months and 3 months has been huge for myself, and feel like you're part of that team. And it really has been great. And that support is something I'm going to continue leaning on over the next year or so. And we'll just keep making the steps and keep making progress. And I'm confident that I'm going to get there.
Ryan Bolding, NHL.com.
Hey, Gabe, thanks for talking to us. I know you mentioned conversation with Lonzo Ball a little bit. Have you had conversations with any other athletes or people who have undergone this? And can you kind of tell us a little bit more about the conversation that you had with him as far as this procedure is concerned?
Yeah, mostly been Lonzo, and I have another couple of contacts with some other guys that I'll reach out to during this rehab process. Lonzo and I mostly just, it was nice to talk to somebody that has gone through the same thing and same frustration regarding the injury. And sometimes some days you feel like you're making a little bit of progress, but then you get a constant reminder that you're not really that close. So just nice to be able to relate to somebody that's gone through it before. Obviously he would be a few weeks ahead of my schedule, but he's, just kind of sharing that experience and he shared some insight on what the first few weeks have been like. And I'm sure that's a guy that, I'll be checking in with once in a while, and just, again, it's nice to relate to somebody and for somebody to know what I'm talking about. And I know what he's talking about going through certain steps of the process. So, yeah, really, I think that's what it comes down to, because, when you talk to other people, it's hard for other people to understand unless it's a doctor or somebody that's gone through it. It's hard to explain. Same thing with any injury or chronic pain. Hard to explain to other people what that feels like and how it bothers you in certain situations or in certain ways. But, having those people around you that have gone through it or have dealt with the same thing, I think that's important.
We'll take a few more here for Gabe. Arif Dean, Mile High Sports.
Hey, Gabe, as usual with you, you seem like you have a very positive mindset and you sound pretty optimistic about this. I guess for that 85% success rate number that you shared with us, how confident are you, not just in that number, but in being able to make a recovery back to the level of play that you expect of yourself?
Yeah, I'm confident. I think it's an optimism and confidence that you need to have. And I think, you're going to continue to explore options and stick to the plan that you put in place, and really keep executing it until you get there. I have spent lots of time thinking about it. And when you do come back, it's, for me, I know it's not going to be perfect right off the get-go, and it's a long time away from the game, but I'm confident in the player I am. I'm confident in the athlete that I am, and I know that I can get myself ready, and I know, with the right guidance and with the right people around me, I'm confident that I'll get back out there and make a big impact on the ice. So I'm excited.
Evan Rawle, Colorado Hockey Now.
Hey, Gabe, I just want to know, is this a procedure that had been mentioned to you in the prior 12 months, or is this something that has only kind of become a realistic option in the last 1 or 2 months?
It was first mentioned to me back in September of 2022. So yeah, this past September, along with the option that we just went through. But in my mind, it was about exhausting every possible option at the right time. And for me, you got to remember back in September, we were just coming off the Stanley Cup, and yeah, my knee had been bothering me for a long time, but I still felt like if we could just, stick with the rehab and take our time with it, do it right, not rush through anything to make a certain deadline or timeline. At the time, I was confident that I could get back and play, not realizing that maybe the damage was kind of already done. But at the same time, I feel like we made the right decisions all along the way, and we gave it a really good shot this year of coming back, and the goal was to come back and play. And the knee just didn't respond the way we thought it was gonna. And then from there, you pivot and you make a different decision, and that's what we've done now, and feel good about it.
We'll take one last one here for Gabe in English. Peter Baugh, The Athletic.
Hey, Gabe, I noticed you said you'd come to terms with not coming back this coming regular season. does that extend to the postseason too, or are you kind of leaving that door open?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it's too early to tell, and I'm definitely leaving that door open if that's how we want to put it. But yeah, I think for me, like I said, it's early to tell. There's lots of steps to take before we get to that point. And we're going to take it one day at a time. And as you guys know from the past, that's the only way to look at it, if you ask me. So I'm excited to start the journey at the end of the day. I'm excited to have the first step done tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. And again, the support from my family, my teammates, the organization, and the fans, and people all over. It means a lot, and I'm going to be leaning on that support moving forward as well. But at the end of the day, I'm excited to get going. I'm excited to take that first step and start moving forward.
We'll take one question here for Gabe in Swedish. Anton Johansson, go ahead.
Hej Gabriel. Jag undrar, i höstas när du opererade så lät det som att det var ungefär 3 månader du skulle vara borta. Hur blev det så att ni hamnade här med ytterligare en operation? Och så undrar jag även, under den här tiden, har du varit rädd att det kan ha varit en skada som har varit karriärshotande, eller hur har dina känslor gått under det här året?
Ja, för att svara på din första fråga, så i oktober så tog vi det beslutet vi tänkte väl att ta den tid det verkligen behövde och inte stressa igenom rehaben och inte skynda på någonting i onödan, utan verkligen ta den tid det behövde. Och som jag sa tidigare, vi hade väl kanske inte, vi trodde väl att knät skulle svara på ett annorlunda sätt på rehaben, och vi gjorde bra framsteg, och sen märkte vi när vi väl gick på is så var det var egentligen inte ens nära på att verkligen vara tillräckligt bra. Så att jag tyckte att vi gjorde rätt beslut, och då i oktober så kändes det som att ta det här beslutet och göra den här operationen då, det var inte ens på kartan egentligen, utan jag ville se till att jag tog rätt beslut i rätt ordning. Knät svarade inte på det sättet som vi hade hoppats, och då gäller det att byta vägriktning och hitta ett nytt mål och ett nytt svar på frågan helt enkelt. Vad behöver mitt knä för att jag ska kunna komma tillbaka och spela hockey? Svara på din andra fråga. Jag har väl aldrig riktigt känt att det är karriärshotande, ska jag vara helt ärlig, utan jag har känt ett förtroende och en säkerhet på att vi kommer hitta rätt. Och jag känner att det här beslutet som jag har tagit nu med den här operationen som vi ska göra imorgon känns helt rätt. Det kommer vara en lång väg tillbaka. Det kommer vara en tuff väg tillbaka, men jag ser fram emot att ha första steget avklarat imorgon och kunna ta nästa steg efter det.
Thank you for your time, Gabe. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
We'll have General Manager Chris MacFarland on here in just a couple seconds. Chris, can you hear me?
I got you, Danny. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. We'll start taking questions for Avalanche General Manager Chris MacFarland. We'll start with Bennett Durando, Denver Post.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for doing this, Chris. I know you mentioned last time we talked that sort of the uncertainty around Gabe didn't affect how you handled the deadline this past season, but does it help? I guess how much does it help to sort of at least right now sort of what his status is going to be this season is in terms of free agency, off-season trades, potentially that sort of thing, as you have to sort of structure a roster around not having Gabe?
Yeah, no, listen, first of all, Gabe Landeskog is a really special player in the NHL, and for our team, his importance transcends the ice, right? He's a power forward that touches every conceivable game situation. So, from in terms of replacing him, it's really hard to replace your captain and what he does off the ice as good of a player as he is on the ice. So, he's a hard guy to replace. I guess the narrative of knowing that he's, potentially out and how we handle that and knowing that, then we have some things that we have to look at, and it potentially opens up avenues that weren't available to us this past season.
Peter Baugh, The Athletic.
Yeah, Chris, when you are looking at those avenues to kind of potentially add this coming season, how do you balance making additions while also kind of knowing that you maybe can't make as many long-term commitments with the hopes of Landeskog coming back beyond this year? Like, is there maybe going to be a focus on shorter-term deals this offseason, trades?
Yeah, I understand the question, Peter. I think Joe and the staff, myself, and our scouts, as always, will look at every opportunity to improve the team, and I think that will include both short and long-term, type of players. If there's a player or that we can potentially add that has term and he fits, what we're trying to do, from an age standpoint, and it makes sense, we'll find a way to make it work. If it's more shorter term deals, then we'll certainly have the ability to strike on that. We're early in the process of that with our scouting meetings here coming up shortly on the pro side, and then with the combine and the draft, I think things will potentially crystallize. But I think everything will be on the table for us to try and improve. But having X number of dollars because a player, has a long-term injury is one thing. Gabe Landeskog is a really special player. And while the knowledge of his situation maybe certainly helps, replacing him is an entirely different conversation.
Kyle Fredrickson, The Gazette.
Hey, Chris, now with the season and the playoffs in the rear view here, I'm just curious sort of how you look at how this year went. Do you view it as a victory in any way that this team with all the injuries won the Central and got into the postseason, or do you see a first round exit, as just not being up to your standard, given the championship, DNA that you guys have?
Well, I think, look, what the guys did last year was incredible. We had a great year. It ended with a championship season. Obviously, we think we have high expectations, in large part because of what those guys have built towards over the last 3, 4, 5 years. So the group dealt with a tremendous amount of adversity this year, in large part because of injury. Not just Gabe's either. There were a lot of number of guys that were dealing with injuries all year and battling through. So from that standpoint, I think Joe and myself, our coaches, it's been said that they were incredible. They got 109 points, grabbed home ice. Did the playoffs go, the way we hoped? No, it didn't. I think they have the expectations that they can deal with whatever is thrown their way, and that I think the resiliency and the innate competitiveness of our group, I think every one of them would tell you that they expected to keep battling and still be playing. So we'll do our part to try and improve the team this offseason. But I think I'm very proud of the group. We've got great leadership in there and a very a resilient group that wants to win. So I don't think that will change.
Pat Graham, Associated Press.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking the time. When we talked to you last month, you said, Gabe Landeskogs don't grow on trees, and good point there. And I guess my question to you would be, given what we know now about the knee injury, I guess how impressive was what he did during that Stanley Cup run to help you guys lift that cup?
It was massive. I mean, I think it says everything about Gabe. He's a winner, and he drives the emotional barometer of our team, and in so many ways. We have great leadership in that room, but Gabe's our captain. He's been here for quite some time, and the things he does that just not even on the ice, but off the ice that really helped us set an internal bar is incredible. And a lot of it goes unseen, but we know his importance and, what he did last year and how he played and battled through something, I know that we'll never forget. And obviously he was a huge piece of that championship run. So he was incredible.
Ryan Bolding, NHL.com.
Hey, Chris, thanks for talking to us. I was wondering if you could let us know if any other players are having surgeries or dealing with injuries here just from the end of the season moving into next.
Yeah, I can give you a couple. I think, Pavel Francouz had a procedure done on an adductor, and I believe, our Terry Lekkinen, and we know he broke a finger and then he broke a toe right when he came back early. He played through that. Josh Manson had a procedure done last week as well. So these are guys that were playing through a lot of stuff through the year, and then we had a few other guys. Obviously, what Cogs had, but before that he had a shoulder issue, an AC sprain. Darren Helm got injured early in the playoff series against Seattle, and pretty much every other guy had bumps and bruises. And when you get through the full 82 games and then into the playoffs, very few guys don't have something. So, but in terms of off-season surgeries, it was, Francouz and Manson, and both expected to recover here in the near future.
Jesse Montano, DNVR.
Hey, Chris, how's it going? I guess I first just wanted to get a follow up on how Andrew Cogliano is doing, if he needed any kind of procedures. But what I was going to ask was, we've talked about the Gabe Landeskog situation, not having clarity and all that. Did you think that maybe any part of that was a distraction for the team last year? Not necessarily in like a bad way, but just having that kind of seemed like 12 weeks, then it was 2 months, then it was 12 more weeks, and just not really having that clarity?
I don't think so. I don't want to, speak for every player. But in talking to our guys, everyone wanted Gabe back. And I think having him around, having the hope that the route that the player and our medical team, that we were going down, every avenue was checked. Every, avenue in our sort of toolbox in terms of talking to people and tapping on other organizations was explored in full support of our ownership and Joe and obviously our leadership group, and everyone was hopeful and everyone wanted Gabe back, and he deserved the opportunity to be back as late in the year as possible because, he's Gabe Landeskog, and if he can get back, there was, that's such an important cog for us. So I don't think it was a distraction at all. In fact, I think having Gabe around for the guys and him being around our group was nothing but a positive. So I would say no.
And then could you give an update on Andrew Cogliano, if he's having anything done?
To my knowledge, Cogs has a 6 to 8 week recovery. I believe I could be off on that timeline, but I don't think anything procedurally is expected at this point in time.
Arif Dean, Mile High Sports.
Hey, Chris, two-parter. Number one, is there a level of urgency now this offseason to make those bigger moves kind of similar to 2019, just given this Landeskog situation and the cap space it frees up to make some moves? And then number two, you spoke about the injured guys, but can you also provide clarity on the Valeri Nichushkin situation? And is that a player that you expect to have available when training camp begins?
I'll answer the second part first. It'll just be consistent with what the messaging has been. We can't comment on Val's situation at this time. As far as part one goes, I think the best way to put it is it creates another wrinkle. We're still tight on cap space. I think anytime you're talking about these situations, there's multiple layers that you have to look at it through. Who can you get? What assets do you have to move that might be deemed attractive to the other team? So there's a lot of different things that we have to decipher and analyze here, and that starts now. That starts with our scouting meetings, talking with Bedsy and Joe and the staff, and then attacking it into the off season and seeing, what's available, and if are there any matches, whether that's a trade or in free agency. Is there an AAV and term match that makes sense for the short and long term of our group? Because, I think for us, we have a great core. We have a young core. So we think, we have a very good team here for the foreseeable future, and we'll try and, maximize that, both short and long term. So hopefully that answers your question.
Evan Rawl, Colorado Hockey Now.
Hey, Chris, obviously the Eagles went on a pretty good playoff run as well. I just want to know, is there anybody that, with cap space being tight, that you guys feel you have players down there that might be able to come in and, fill a role on the roster next year to kind of make things a little easier?
Well, we're certainly going to have, opportunities for guys to, to make a dent and prove in our group here that they can make our lineup. So, whether it's, you're talking about a guy like Ben Myers or Eustace Annanen, or, some of the college guys that we signed late in the previous spring here, Jason Poland, Andre Pavel, Sam Malinsky, those guys were all, signed because we have NHL hopes for them. Now, hopes and doing it are two different things, as you guys all know. And we were able to find a Logan O'Connor who, was a free agent, and he carved a role and earned trust, and became a member of our bottom six. And, we need those guys. We need somebody to grab the wheel and run with it. So they're going to have every opportunity to have a big off season. That's in there. That's a controllable for them, how hard they work and the improvements they can make in key areas, and then come and try and grab a spot, in training camp. So, but that work starts here now. The Eagles did have a really good year. Our injuries certainly affected them, and then they had, some of their own injuries, but, Greg Cronin and his staff and, our players down there did a heck of a job, getting a playoff spot, and they're disappointed today because they felt, that they could have advanced too. So, but no, all in all, a very, very good year with some positives, but, we'll need some of those guys to take a step, but, they have to earn that.
Bennett Durando, Denver Post.
Chris, two things real quick. With Val, I mean, he was involved in a police incident in Seattle during the playoff series. He's in the first year of a long-term contract. Is there any concern about sort of his future with the team as a whole stemming from an incident like that when he is at the beginning of something that's going to stretch another 7 years?
Bennett, I can't comment on anything Val related other than to say he was a very important part of our team in the past, and we hope, that's our hope that he's going to be a very important part of our team in the future for sure. Okay.
And then secondly, you guys have a bunch of guys who are, going into unrestricted free agency this offseason, from Comfer, Rodriguez, Eric Johnson, Cogliano, a bunch of these guys. I guess, how do you sort of balance navigating the current guys who are going to free agency and considering re-signing certain players versus, looking at new options and sort of building from guys who are not on the current roster?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I think, part of the CBA is unrestricted free agency. And when players are, entering that year, that's a right that they have, is to test the market. I think, we have, like we do every year, we have off-season meetings, and, part of that is the puzzle piecing of our roster with our pro staff, and Joe and the coaches certainly, between now and the draft, we'll have those internal discussions and see if, any of the current UFAs will certainly cycle with some of them and see if there is a contractual fit, and away we go. And if there's not, then we know what we have in terms of cap dollars as we approach the draft and free agency to see who can make a fit. So that work has started and will continue to be a key focus here over the next, between now and the draft, and certainly the bulk of the summer.
We'll take a couple more here for Chris. Peter Baugh, The Athletic.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. I know you can't say a ton, obviously, but with Gabe, it was big to get clarity before the draft and free agency and all that stuff. Do you expect to have clarity on whether Val will be available when the draft and free agency comes around?
Peter, I can't comment on anything more than we have on Val. So that, you know, that's where we're at.
Last one here for Chris, Eric Dean, Mile High Sports.
I guess just for you personally, Chris, on the Nichushkin situation, not necessarily commenting on him, but is it a little frustrating knowing that there is a little bit of murkiness with the roster similar to last year in terms of salary cap implications and things like that?
No, there's no murkiness. I think we know what we have in terms of our cap. We know, you know, sort of, we think we have a pretty good feel on the areas we want to tighten up and improve to get the roster where we feel is in a good place as we enter training camp next year. So we're excited. We've got a really good group here. We've got some really hard to find pieces in key, position spots, with Nathan and Mikko, Kale, Devon Taves, Lehkonen, Georgiev, that there's a lot of reasons to be excited here with our group. And I think, a lot of them have been through the battles with us over the last number of years. So we expect to be a good hockey team and a competitive team. And our guys have set a high bar. So that certainly makes my job and Joe's job and our staff's job easier. So we'll figure it out, but they're the drivers of this, and we feel really confident in them moving forward.
Thank you for your time today, Chris. We appreciate it.